Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome esteemed colleagues, community partners, and general public. Thank you for joining us for the Public Defender's Community Presentation highlighting our budget priorities for the upcoming fiscal years. My name is Lyslynn Lacoste. I'm the director of MAGIC, which is one of the Public Defender's Office dynamic community programs. MAGIC was started to break the school-to-prison pipeline, working in collaboration with children, youth, and family organizations to prevent young people from entering the juvenile system and later the criminal system. Soon, you'll be hearing from the public defender himself, Mano, Raju, on many of our programs and services, as well as the strategic and budget vision centered on transformative justice, racial equity, and community health. But first, we have two phenomenal speakers, Joanna Hernandez and Dr. Sayra Pinto, who we invited to speak today because we are an office with strong connection to the community. They both will speak to our work on how our work impacts the community and intersects with the broader liberation movements. First, we have Joanna Hernandez. A little bit about Joanna. Joanna has over 20 years experience in leading and facilitating programs for justice-involved individuals. She tirelessly advocates for people in the justice system and has been a pioneer in developing innovative programming throughout the Bay Area and in the Mission District, including Mission Centers, neighborhood centers, and as a founder of Young Queens on the Rise. She previously served on San Francisco Sentencing Commission and is the co-chair of the Reentry Committee for San Francisco's Latino Task Force. She is a passionate crusader for individuals detained in San Francisco's county jail and has led reform efforts to improve the manner in which our justice system responds to their needs. So with that, Joanna, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, right? Thank you so much for allowing me to come to this I call it a sacred space, because I look at the Public Defender's Office as the face of our community in our justice system. I see our Public Defender's Office as the voice to the voiceless, to the voices that are incarcerated, but we at times, the community, feel voiceless in those courtrooms, or when we're trying to get a visit with our clients. So I wanted to first say thank you to all the public defenders who are our community warriors and who are out there doing the work. So I appreciate you. I do want to talk this morning about the collaborative work that we have been doing with the San Francisco Public Defender's Office. One that I'm very, very proud of, that my colleague and I, Ivan, who works with me as the chair for the Reentry Committee. Most recently, we started off, I think it was in conversation in probably late November, December, where we started to talk about the Clean Slate program and how important it was to have the Public Defender's Office representatives there to help our families and representatives apply for Clean Slate. There was a very big disconnect in regards to, especially, how would I say this, like, insecure about going to the Public Defender's Office to go and apply for Clean Slate, or even the fact of walking across the street or around the corner. So we wanted to collaborate with the PED's office to say, hey, this is an opportunity for us to come to you. And that's exactly what the Public Defender's Office did. They came to the Latino Task Force. They met with about over, I believe, 20 case managers and trained us on how to help our families fill out the application, and created basically an open door policy for our families and for our community members. I also I'm also a representative of the working group to close juvenile hall, working side by side and seeing attorneys defending our young people in custody and defending those who at times don't really understand the system. Working together side by side with them in regards to the program that represents folks that are serving life sentences and giving folks a second chance, and working with them in creating opportunities of reentry plans and getting community access. We worked very together, not just them, the PD's office being attorneys, but also giving a space to be the community voice. And that is important. As someone who has a loved one that's currently incarcerated. I represent also a support group for mothers who are fighting against this horrible injustice system. And so it was an honor for me to stand with other family members and other mothers on the steps of the Hall of Justice to create voice in regards to speedy trials. And I want to thank the PD for not being afraid to stand up and say, hey, we need access. We need to be able to not have our people sitting inside. I think that we're a very unique city, and to have our public defender who just not comes in a black armed car, he pulls up and he's about the community, you know what I mean? And that's one thing that I really want folks to know, that it's a collaborative effort and it's an open door policy. And I just want to say thank you and be able to say on behalf of our community and our families who are system involved and people who are part of the Latino Task Force, we want to thank to our public defender for creating a space that's community led and community driven, and we just want to say thank you for helping us create a transformative justice opportunity for folks to give their voice.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you for sharing your personal story and your connection to our office. Next, we have Dr. Pinto. Dr. Sayra Pinto is the Chief Practitioner for the Moon Jaguar Strategies, LLC, and a consulting company supporting cross-sector organizations to build strategies and cultures to transform themselves and the world, and is an internationally known facilitator in transformative justice circles. She has devoted over 30 years of her career to cross-sectoral social transformation and has worked with numerous human services organizations, colleges and universities, public schools, and philanthropic organizations, philanthropic organizations, and has been working with Mano, Raju, in the Public Defender's Office to help strengthen our efforts to support each other, our clients, and community well-being. Dr. Pinto?
Thank you, Lyslynn. It's good to see you today. I guess the first thing I would say about the Public Defender's Office and my process with the office, as somebody who's done a lot of work, not only in terms of working with people in the community, young people, gang-involved individuals, domestic violence survivors, is that this is the one government-related institution that I've seen that carries secondary and tertiary trauma in a way that I've only seen with people who work on the ground in non-institutional settings in the past. And what that tells me and what I've learned is just how intensely invested defenders in this office are in the well-being and also the struggles of the community they serve. One of the things I repeat often when I work with Mano and his team is that most other public defender offices that I've seen tend to be extensions of the district attorney's office. And this office actually operates as an extension of the community. I have been deeply moved by the collaborative and immensely very well thought of process to begin to move the office into what I call a 21st century model of management and leadership, which includes actually a commitment to confronting power, which for me has been the most exciting thing about my relationship with this office. I'm deeply excited by the leadership that I have watched and have been beneficiary of, that Mano has brought into the office as a collaborative, thoughtful, principled leader. It's the kind of leadership that actually we need more of, that anchors then long-term processes of community justice. One of the critiques that I bring around not only transformative justice, but also restorative justice and healing justice is the ways in which cultural practices that came from tribal communities have actually been appropriated and taken out of context. One of the things that I love that I'm watching happen as a result of our connection is a doubling down on making sure that there's right relationship with tribal and indigenous communities, not only in the region, but also nationally, internationally, as the Public Defender's Office begins to move towards not only supporting, but actually driving community justice processes in partnership with community members. And so I could not be happier to be here to speak to that, and on behalf of that, this vision that is driving the office, and the way in which folks who are excellent attorneys are actually also excellent leaders and are actually also excellent community members. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Dr. Pinto, for sharing a bit more about your experience in working with our office. Next, we'll hear from the public defender himself, Mano Raju, on the budget priorities for our office. I just want to remind those that are joining us that there is going to be a Q&A period after the public defender presents the budget, and there is going to be time for public comment. If you do have any questions that come up during the presentation, please, in the chat, send those questions to, there's an indication to somebody that says send questions here. So please direct your questions to the indicator within the chat that says send questions here. Thank you. So with that, I have the pleasure of introducing our public defender himself, Mano Raju, but a bit of background about Mano. He completed his undergraduate work at Columbia, holds a master's degree in South Asian Studies from UC Berkeley, and has earned his law degree at UC Berkeley Law. After 7 years as a deputy public defender in Contra Costa County, he joined the San Francisco office in 2008 as a line deputy. Known as a fierce litigator, Mano has lectured on winning homicide cases, winning gang cases, and race-conscious representation. He believes in holistic representation, getting to know his clients, their families, and communities, as well as connecting people to re-entry opportunities. His office has a reputation for being vulnerable inside and out of the courtroom and pushing for equity and humanity in the criminal legal system. So with that, Mano.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Mano Raju, and I'm honored to be the elected public defender of San Francisco. I want to thank Lyslynn, Joanna, and Sayra for their remarks and for their partnership with this office. It is truly special for me to be doing this presentation with the three of you and with our community members overall, because I really love the term that Joanna used about us as community warriors. That's something we truly aspire to every day. So here's a roadmap for my presentation today. I'm going to be speaking about our purpose, what we do, and who we serve as your local public defender. I'm also going to share some recent achievements and the details of our current budget. Finally, I will share some of our goals for the next 2 years, which are connected to deepening and strengthening our work as a transformative public defender's office. The vision is focused on fighting for racial justice on behalf of individual clients and confronting the racial inequities that permeate every aspect of our system. It seeks to fully capitalize on our commitment and our proximity to our clients and to address the underlying reasons that lead to carceral system involvement with the goal of reducing recidivism and promoting community health, community wellness, and community safety. The Public Defender's Office provides a range of legal and social services to anyone in San Francisco, both youth and adults who are accused of crimes. We also fight for the rights of detained immigrants facing deportation, as well as mentally ill people facing the conservatorship process. We have a powerful team of 200 justice warriors at the Public Defender's Office. Half are attorneys, half are non-attorneys who play a variety of critical roles. We serve over 20,000 people annually. Here's a vision statement that we created this past year as part of our internal strategic planning process. You know, one of the ideas as we enter this moment of increasing awareness of the Public Defender's Office is that I believe firmly that we should have a growth mindset, take the best management strategies, leadership strategies, collaboration strategies, bring them into public defenders' offices so we can maximize our efficiency, enhance our culture, and increase our effectiveness. We're fighting for a world, to create a world where our collective humanity is cherished. Not just the humanity of some people, but our collective humanity. To achieve this vision, we believe in fiercely, and I emphasize the word fiercely, defending our clients, confronting state violence, and advocating for community power. Our values help to keep us grounded through this work, and it's our commitment to love, compassion, courage, and excellence that sees us through. And let me just go back to that fiercely word for a second. When someone is in custody, when someone is facing charges, they want a defender who's going to come in and fight vigorously for them. And that is a commitment that I made in my community swearing in to Mario Woods' mom, Gwen Woods, and it's a commitment that our whole office leads by and works with. Who do we defend? Who are our clients? Across the various services that we provide, these are the demographics of the clients that we serve. Over 10% are immigrants and or non-English speakers. Over 75% suffer from mental illness and or substance use issues. 51% are Black, over 75% are BIPOC. All are low income. Many live in poverty and or suffer from homelessness. We truly represent the most oppressed communities with a goal of providing the highest level of representation that we possibly can and holistic wellness services. This past year has been incredibly challenging with the impact of COVID, trying to manage an office without everyone being in the office, trying to still litigate in court, trying to maximize Zoom, really transforming our practice. Even though it's been challenging though, it has shown increasing the resilience of public defenders and the clients and families that we serve. We litigated on behalf of individual clients under really challenging circumstances as the courtrooms remained closed to criminal trials. Despite that, we fought to get them open, and we conducted 25 felony jury trials to verdict, winning a large percentage of these cases, leading to the release of many clients who had been incarcerated for months past their legal deadline for trial. In addition, we tried 20 misdemeanor jury trials to verdict and fought to secure dismissals in a phenomenal 80% of misdemeanor cases. Our track record in court is based on so much work that's done behind the scenes. People are often shocked when I share all the things that we do. I had a new employee who started last week come to our annual meeting that we have in our office, and she was just amazed. She's like, I had no idea. I knew you all did a lot, but I had no idea how much you do. What we do ranges from prevention to courtroom criminal defense to post-conviction advocacy to social services and to systems change. This is why we are considered the preeminent public defender office in the country. My predecessor and friend, Jeff Adachi, knew that in order to provide the type of support and advocacy that can change the lives of our clients and their families, we had to engage in systems change work at the local and state level, address racial injustices head on, and connect people to services to help them thrive. And that's something we've been committed to, and it's something that we will remain committed to going forward. Our courtroom work also includes holding state actors accountable when they inflict violence and harm on our clients and communities. One of those is unlawful pretrial detention, where people are in jail solely because they can't afford bail to be released, which is completely counter to the presumption of innocence. There are three dynamics in large part that contribute to unjust and unfair outcomes in our system. One of those is pretrial detention. Another is overcharging. And I've seen examples of people know about the strikes law, where I'll talk about a situation and people tell me, wait, those are 2 strikes. Why wasn't that a misdemeanor? Why wasn't that a call to the parents? That's what we mean by overcharging. And the third is trial tax, which is when judges or prosecutors intimidate clients by saying, listen, if you are convicted of trial, we're going to give you much more time than what the pretrial offer is. This past year, we were instrumental in attacking one of those 3 evils of the system, which is ending unaffordable cash bail for individuals incarcerated pretrial by litigating and winning the historic Humphrey case in the California Supreme Court. You see on this slide an image of Mr. Humphrey with Anita Nava, one of our attorneys in the office. This groundbreaking decision is pivotal for expanding racial justice and ending mass incarceration statewide, as California has the 2nd highest pretrial detention rate in the country. We also sued the California prison and ICE this year, together with the Marin County Public Defender's Office and a team of private attorneys. We litigated on behalf of 300 individuals incarcerated in San Quentin State Prison against the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. This led to a finding that prison officials acted with deliberate indifference and inflicted cruel and unusual punishment during a massive COVID-19 outbreak during the summer of 2020. Our immigration team then helped win a groundbreaking settlement that requires immigration authorities to preserve COVID-19 safety measures that allow social distancing and vaccination mandates for staff and individuals who are detained in ICE custody, limiting the redetention of immigrants who have been released during the pandemic. This is groundbreaking work that had an impact for people throughout the state on a massive scale. It's so important that we are fiercely independent, not court-centered, not prosecution-centered, but client-centered. In my community oath to Ms. Woods, I said we were not just going to be compassionate, but we were going to be relentless and courageous. Relentless and courageous in our fight for justice. The 4th Amendment, the 5th Amendment, the 6th Amendment, the 8th Amendment in the Constitution, 4 of those first 10 amendments are about our work and our ability to preserve due process, and our mandate that we preserve due process and fight for our clients. Therefore, it's crucial that we are singularly focused on zealously finding tooth and nail for our clients. We've used every tool in our toolbox to advocate vigorously on behalf of the nearly 500 accused, including over 200 who are in custody, whose trial deadlines have passed because of courtrooms that have been devoted to civil matters instead of to criminal jury trials. Let me explain. A trial deadline is the last day by which the court has to begin trial. So if there's no clarity on their date, our clients are much more likely to plead to something they did not do in order to be able to see a loved one or to avoid losing a job. And that has major impact down the road. You know, today's Valentine's Day, and I want to share a story of a client of mine who I was making an appearance with him on Valentine's Day, and I wanted to talk about all these dynamics and strategy decisions we were going to have to go through in his case. It was a very, very complicated case and carried a potential life sentence. And while he was listening to me, he put effort into the most beautiful Valentine's Day card that I think I've ever seen, 2 of them actually, for both of his daughters. And in his mind, what was most important for him was just making sure that his 2 daughters got those cards on that day. We made sure that happened. But it's just so important that we realized how our clients are such, what everything that happens to a client also impacts their family. And that's why it's so vital that we remain committed to fierce defense. So the efforts that we've taken included filing hundreds of bail and speedy trial motions on behalf of individual clients. Myself and 4 taxpayers have sued the San Francisco Superior Court, and we're asserting our clients' state and federal constitutional rights have been violated. The case continues to move through the system. I've shared with you how we fight for justice and equity in the courtroom every day, but we're also out in community. Our 2 programs, award-winning programs that are largely community-facing, are the MAGIC and MAGIC program in the Bayview, Fillmore, and Western Addition. These MAGIC programs target populations that are children, young people up to age 24, and their families, with a particular prioritization of the Black community and low-income families. The MAGIC programs partner with CBOs to work to reduce youth contact with the juvenile and criminal justice system and to develop community resources. This work is about prevention and building support and capacity in our vulnerable communities. We don't want our people, our young people, to just stay out of trouble. That's too low of a bar. We want them to thrive. And our MAGIC programs, under the direction and leadership of Lyslynn Lacoste and Brittany Ford, enable young people to do just that. Youth development is a skill, and it's not an easy skill to have, but for those people who have that skill, it just has the most vital impact imaginable. And we're so proud of our programs. In fact, one of the reasons I came to this office from the Contra Costa Public Defender's Office was because I had heard of these MAGIC programs, and I knew that we were engaged in fighting, almost working ourselves out of a job, trying to do that youth development work so well so that people don't wind up in the system. And those of you who have been to our backpack giveaways know the immense power that can happen in just one day of vital community-based youth development work. Also, our Clean Slate program helps community members clear their criminal records so they can finally move on in life and obtain education, housing, and jobs. This nationally recognized program ensures that people aren't discriminated against because of an arrest or a conviction in their backgrounds. You know, there's been a lot of discussion in the media lately about public safety, and I want to be clear that programs like this, programs like the MAGIC program, programs like Clean Slate, that's what, you know, and when we talk about public safety, a lot of times people think of keeping the public safe from people that we represent. But we have to realize how we're all part of one universe. We're all one community. And we believe in community health and community well-being. And when we get people's records expunged, they're able to get jobs, which has an impact not just on them, but on their immediate family and sometimes generationally also. We're also a force for equity in the community in so many other ways. Here are other community-facing services that we provide that are about serving our clients and helping them be successful long-term. Addiction treatment support, immigration support, reentry support, social work and referrals, post-conviction support, community empowerment and connection, and policy advocacy. We're committed to seeing the beauty, power, and potential of each person that we represent, and our office attracts people with that ethos. Two other initiatives that I want to briefly mention that are central to our fight for racial justice in the criminal legal system. The first is, together with the Treasurer's Office, we conceived of the Be the Jury pilot program to pay low-income jurors $100 a day instead of the $15 that they currently get. Every defense attorney has been in a situation with a client where we're encouraging them to go to trial because we know they're not guilty of what they've been charged with, or they're not guilty of everything they've been charged with. And time again, there are clients who will say to us, listen, I know, but this jury is not going to understand where I'm coming from. This jury isn't going to understand the dynamics in my community. This jury isn't going to be fair to me. This jury is going to presume guilt. And as skilled practitioners, it's our job to try to make sure that jurors do presume innocent. But the reality is that divide is very real. And real justice has much more chance of happening when we have jurors that are economically diverse and that are racially diverse. And this program, which is the first of its kind in the country, is hopefully going to bring us forward in that direction. Studies have consistently shown that economically and racially diverse jurors have wider ranging and more accurate deliberation discussions and make better decisions, improving the legitimacy of the criminal legal system. Another project that we launched last year was the Adachi Project, the first of its kind, a media and storytelling initiative aimed at changing stereotypes and humanizing our clients and their communities. We know that we must change the narrative and public perception of who our clients are if they are going to receive true justice in courtrooms and true justice in Sacramento. We've made 3 short films at the project so far, and you can view them at wearedefender.com. The unfortunate reality is there's a lot of policies that aren't necessarily meeting the needs of our community. And the way we actually get policies to meet the needs is to tell the stories, have the stories being told in a really vibrant way through other media besides just the printed word. And these stories are really powerful, and they're a way of us getting our policies to actually align with the needs of our communities and families. Very proud of the work that we're doing there. And everyone in my office, by the way, we're doing this work on top of our full-time jobs, which is something, unfortunately, that we have to do because of the inequity in funding when you look at our office versus the other ones in the criminal legal system. We're going to get to that in a minute. So moving on to our budget. Here's a snapshot of our budget over the past 3 years. I'm going to provide you a larger context for our budget in a few slides. As you can see, our budget dipped in 2021, but we were able to increase it by a few positions last year. Our budget is really people power. We're a very lean machine. As you can see, over 90% of our budget is made up of salaries. One of my colleagues told me she was surprised when she came to the office that she pretty much got a pen and a pad and was told, these are your supplies and here's a desk, but this is what we have for you. We really, because we're so committed to, putting every penny into fighting justice for our clients, we don't have a lot of fat in our organization. It's really about the people power. The public defender is the most underfunded and underestimated agency in the criminal legal system. These previous budget slides exist within a particular context. Even though the public defender is the most underfunded agency in the criminal legal system, we're also the most critical for racial justice and genuine community safety. When people talk about the criminal justice system, a phrase that I don't really use, I use criminal legal system. They are talking about the public defender on one side, but all the instruments of the carceral system on the other side, which is the police, probation, parole, the DA, the sheriff. And when you look at it that way, our budget is shockingly less than 4% of that combined criminal legal system budget. So comparing us to other departments, this is how it breaks down. Our annual budget of $45 million is only 56% of the budget of the district attorney's office, despite the fact that 70% of the individuals charged in San Francisco are represented by us. And to be clear, people who have worked on both sides, it is really hard to be a public defender. You're triaging a bunch of cases. We don't get our information handed to us by the police department. We have to go out and do the investigation ourselves to do the complete side of the story. We have to do the social histories. We have to file the motions. And generally speaking, the tide is against us, and it's by fighting vigorously, we can change it in another direction, but it's a very challenging job. We get hundreds and hundreds of resumes for a few positions, and it's, frankly, very difficult to get hired. in our office, but really proud of the people we have. So people may think that the public defender and DA are two similarly sized agencies who battle things out in the courtroom, but the reality is not only is their budget much larger, but they have the entire police department investigating arm at their disposal, right? Whereas for us, we have a group of investigators who are very skilled, but they're dwarfed when you look at the numbers and the pay of the police department. And the sad reality is this chronic underfunding is not unique to San Francisco. This is the structural inequity and racism endemic to every criminal legal system in this country. And we're trying to change this. I'm on the steering committee of the National Association of Public Defenders. We're trying to bring more attention to this. The ABA, American Bar Association, is meeting in Williamsburg later this month. And we're hoping we're going to start changing and increasing the national awareness of much more robust funding for public defenders. Again, when you look at the amount of money spent on law enforcement, systemic inequality is even more glaring. 6 times less than the sheriff's department, 15 times less than the police department. That's what our budget is. So this budget inequity is why we fight every year to grow that pot of resources for our clients, rather than growing the pot of funds for carceral systems agencies. So this brings me to the final part of our presentation, how we want to grow both our ability to ensure community safety and to achieve racial equity. I know from experience that we are a community safety and community health organization. When you truly see someone, when you truly fight for them, when you truly show them that you're in their corner, that battle in and of itself can be a springboard to someone, independent of the result of the litigation, springboard to that person moving their life in a direction. Why? Because they know someone truly saw them and truly cares about them. In addition to that, we can use our trust relationship and vantage point to not just identify problems, but to find and implement long-term solutions for our clients. Because of the Fifth Amendment, other agencies aren't even allowed to communicate with our clients. We're the ones who have the ability to go in there for the protection of attorney-client privilege and truly assess what our clients need. What is the combination of services this person needs? Is it a class at City College? Is it substance abuse treatment? Is it some classes about being a better parent? Is it anger management classes? Is it an internship for another employment opportunity? What's that combination that's going to get that person to the next level? We're in a unique position to identify what that is and to make it happen. And on top of that, if someone ends up slipping after representation, let me tell you who they're not going to call: a probation officer, a parole agent, a police officer, a district attorney. Why? Because they don't want to get arrested. However, someone they may reach out to is the public, if they're properly resourced, or the public defender social worker who is already fighting them to begin with, to say, okay, listen, I know you're struggling again here. Here's the program for you right now. Because of that ability of trust. And it's people who have been in the system are much more likely to trust the entity that's fighting for their best legal outcome to also identify the best services for them. So while public safety is a term that's been co-opted to mean police and law enforcement activity, when I talk about community health and community safety, I'm talking about what we do in conjunction with community-based organizations and vibrant members of our community to ensure all people in our community, including the most vulnerable, can feel that they are supported and safe. Here's some of the ways that our office currently focuses on community safety and health. Our pre-trial release and re-entry units connect clients to treatment, community-based services, housing, and employment opportunities. We also make that call out to the family members so that anxiety that can happen when a loved one is incarcerated is eased and things don't spill out, for the family while they have a loved one incarcerated. Our collaborative court teams advocate for clients to participate in mental health services and mental health diversion, young adult court, behavioral health court, drug court, veterans court, and other alternative courts. Our clean slate unit clears people's records and removes barriers to employment, housing, and education. Our youth defender unit, sometimes referred to as a juvenile unit, but I don't like that term because it's stigmatizing, works to keep our youth out of the criminal system, and our MAGIC and Young Defender programs invest in their education and empowerment. Our Young Defender program is something that we started in conjunction with the school districts and the Teachers for Social Justice to provide a internship pathway so that high school students are getting a paid internship that exposes them to different jobs: social worker, investigator, paralegal, IT, clerical, attorney, etc., policy work, so that they can see a vision for themselves to be involved in this kind of work in a public defender's office. I'm immensely proud of the work we do. Clearly, there's so much work to be done so that all members of our community are safe, but we know that we have the ability to make a massive contribution in that area. As we look forward to the next 3 years, my goal is to develop our capacity as a transformative defense office. Through litigation in the courts, policy advocacy, and robust direct client services and social work, I believe we can make huge strides toward achieving community safety and racial justice. We want to transform the lives of our clients and at the same time transform the system itself, one that's too long been dehumanizing and oppressive. And in doing this, we allow people to heal and thrive. Ideally, every client who comes to our office, in addition to an attorney, has a social worker. Currently, we only have the resources to provide social workers for our clients charged with the most serious cases. But if we really want to make a difference in the long-term success of our clients, we have to increase the investment. Increasing the number of social workers in our office is critical to our ability to implement the groundbreaking Humphrey decision that we just talked about, which is where the California Supreme Court ended unaffordable cash bail, because we want people who are presumed innocent to make sure they're getting the services that they need. Because it held that the courts have to think about alternatives to incarceration, and often that will include a certain kind of services. We also need additional social workers to assess clients, identify their needs, connect them to services. Also, there's a new state law, SB 81, and that requires courts to consider childhood trauma and prior victimization at sentencing. We need the skilled social workers to be able to identify and have clients open up to what that childhood trauma was and what any prior victimization may have been. It's my responsibility to utilize this new law to benefit every single client accused of a crime with a sentence enhancement in San Francisco. This office needs additional social workers and mitigation specialists because they possess the clinical and information gathering skills and training necessary to elicit this sensitive information. They have the skills to recognize such mitigating information and to work with the lawyers to present it in court in sentencing as required by Senate Bill 81. This brings us to a final part of our presentation, which is how we're going to grow our ability to ensure community safety and to achieve racial equity. Racial justice. Fighting for racial justice is the core of our work. You can't be a Black public defender without also fighting for Black liberation. You can't be a public defender without fighting for immigrant rights. According to 2021 data from the San Francisco Police Department, officers continue to disproportionately stop, search, and arrest and use force against Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Black individuals comprise almost 50% of San Francisco's jail population. despite the fact that the population is under 5%. And this is the group incarcerated in the county jail for the longest duration. The per capita incarceration rate of Black people in our city is 17 times that of whites. Over 75% of the public defender's clients are BIPOC. Racial justice, therefore, must and will remain at the heart and core of our work every day. Let me provide a few examples of the explicitly anti-racist work that we do. Our policy unit fights for racial justice by advocating for changes in local and state laws and policy more just. Our immigration unit fights on behalf of immigrants facing deportation. Our integrity unit holds police accountable for misconduct and advocates for reforms to law enforcement policies and procedures that disproportionately target people in communities of color. Our post-conviction unit seeks the release or resentencing of individuals who have been punished under laws that disproportionately sentence people of color to longer terms of state prison. This is the work that we've done. This is the work we'll continue to do. But starting this year, for the first time, we have another tool at our disposal, and that tool is the California Racial Justice Act. This law will allow the defense to challenge criminal charges, challenge sentencing, or vacate a conviction in which the judgment has not been entered by demonstrating that racial discrimination or bias, direct or implicit, played a role in their prosecution. This was AB 2542, and it empowers the defense to challenge racial disparities and inequalities in arrests by the police, charging by the district attorney, and sentences by the courts that demonstrate that racial discrimination or bias, direct or implicit, again, played a role. So we're aspiring to build a new team to identify, investigate, and litigate claims under this groundbreaking legislation. Now, like a lot of things, when the law changes, it does not reach the intended people it is intended to address until there's a public defender and they're fighting to breathe life into that law. And that's why we're seeking additional funding to be able to implement the Racial Justice Act. And there's going to be additional work for everyone to go through their files to determine where is the Racial Justice Act appropriate to be litigated. But in addition to that, we need to make sure we have the training. And when we designate an attorney to dive into that area or hire an attorney who's an expert in that area to try to train other people, that's one less attorney who has a caseload that they can work on because they have to devote time to the training. So we're trying to deepen our training in that area. We're also trying to deepen our training in the area of, racially sensitive cultural competence, so that we're simultaneously empowering those aspects of our identities that have historically been oppressed and demonstrating allyship for those other parts. So we're creating an office where every single person here can thrive. And so we're continuing to fight and empower our staff in a culturally competent way and empower our clients, empower the families so that we can vindicate all of our rights and not just some of them. And just to be clear, we're an office that, I'm carrying cases that I've had 3 cases since I've been a public defender that carry a life sentence that I've held on to. My chief attorney has cases. A lot of our managers are carrying cases too. We're an office that, in addition to doing the work we're doing every day, we're taking work on top of that. We're all handling individual cases, and because we believe in it, and we're going to continue to fight for every single client that we represent, because we know the deep impact of that representation. But as we do that, we want the increased funding so we can do it in an even more bold way, even bigger way, in a way that creates even more justice. I want to thank you all for your time today and for attending this presentation.
Thank you, Mano. Just want to thank you again for uplifting and highlighting that we are one community and how our office goes about addressing public safety and criminal reform. During this time, we're going to transition to our public comment and Q&A period. Again, if you do have questions, please send questions to the send questions here as just been indicated in the chat, and raise your hand for public comment. So while I wait for questions to come in, I'm going to look to see if there's any raised hand for public comment. I do see you. Oh, Joanna, who just spoke. Hi.
Yes, hi. I just want to say just thank you, because I felt that. And as a mother who has her child in that dark place, I felt that. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your countless hours, for all the work that you do for our community, what your office does for our community. And it just hurts me though to know that out of all the system partners, the public defender's office budget is the lowest. Like that is shameful. That is a disgrace to our community and to our city, because you guys are on the front lines. You guys have been there during this whole pandemic where families were worried. You were answering those phone calls when we weren't even getting a phone call. We were not getting visits. So if I could say anything on behalf of mamas and families that are out there, those nanas, and just thank you, and thank you to all your public defender warriors that are there. Please let them know that we say thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Next, we have William Palmer. Can he be unmuted, please?
Yes, thank you for allowing me to attend, and I learned so much. I should have known that the public office was gets less money, but I didn't realize how much less. And it is so weird that the police department works for the district attorney's office and not equally, unbiased, works with the public defender's office as well. So as a person who was incarcerated at 17 and didn't get out until he was 48 and had to fight for juvenile rights and just continuously fighting for the right to live my life now while on parole and not being lumped in, the public defender's office has been there when road agents have locked me up because of the fight that I'm fighting. And it was the public defenders who came to see me and help facilitate getting me out. And their relationship with certain judges who saw what was going on. I really want to fight on behalf of the public defender's office to get that funding, get more people, more staffing, more community support, and all of those things, and fight together as one. So just in creating Life After Next, a nonprofit organization that starts reentry the moment someone is convicted. We believe in what you're saying, like holistic treatment and services, and teaching people how to write their life plan the moment they are convicted, so they'd be ready with all the resources necessary when they return. And part of that is going back to where we messed up and helping to fix the problems that we made. And so I look forward to a relationship with the public defender's office and all that you guys have done. Congratulations.
Thank you, William. We'll welcome your support.
Thank you, William. I always appreciate all of our collaborations that we've done. Look forward to future collaborations with you.
Okay, I'm looking just to see if we have any questions. Are there any other additional questions or public comment? I see another hand raised. Is it Larissa?
Yes, Larissa. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Larissa Dugan Cuadra. I'm the Executive Director of the Central American Resource Center, also known as CARECEN. Excuse me. And I want to just take a moment to appreciate the Public Defender's Office, everyone in the office, but in particular the Immigration Unit, for your partnership with the community-based legal service providers. Our partnership with the Public Defender has been critical as we lack the criminal justice skills. And so the partnership between immigration attorneys and the criminal justice unit, as well as the immigration unit overall, has been so important to us. And not only have you been a great partner in service, but also a great partner in advocacy and lifting and advancing the right to due process, to uphold our sanctuary city policy, one of the strongest in the nation. And we recognize the challenges with staffing, both in the public defender's office as well as in the community-based organizations. We're trying to attract immigration attorneys who can do this really difficult work. You guys know that better than anyone. Forgive me, I have COVID, so I'm a little, but doing better. So, you know, it's really hard work. And I want to take a moment right now because, you know, just like the criminal justice work is so difficult for immigration attorneys having to stay on top of policy shifts weekly during the Trump as a disaster. Those policies have not been rescinded yet. And we know that during his 4 years of incredible damage to this country, more than 400 laws were implemented or shifts to the immigration policy in the US. And that meant that immigration attorneys, public defenders, and community-based attorneys have had to spend hours and weeks studying what these policy shifts mean, how they impact our clients' cases, in addition to doing all the impact litigation work to try to push back and resist these draconian, inhumane, human right violating laws. So just thank you. We look forward to continuing to partner with you, as also, of course, Carecen has a Second Chance Youth Program. And we've been working more closely in the last couple of years with your office on connecting your clients with our case managers. And so again, thank you for the partnership. We support your budget. And I echo what Joanna Hernandez said, is that this department needs to be properly budgeted and staffed, given the current moment that we're living in and the impacts of the pandemic and our criminal, our repression approach, rather than a health approach to addressing the needs of our community.
Thank you, Larissa, and joining us during your COVID recovery. Next, we have Jaku, our very own.
Yeah, because we're in, this is public comment and it's for the budget. I just want to be heard that I've been a public defender here going on 19 years. The Black and brown population in jail has always been above 60%. Ever since I've been a public defender, it's for Black folk particularly because they didn't really keep adequate data for Latinx individuals, and that was intentional. But for Black folk, it's been about 56%, and now it's in the 40s, high 40s, when Black folk comprise only 6% of the population or less in San Francisco. And so, you know, with regard to the Racial Justice Act, with regard to all these other things that have been implemented, I think it's time that the Board of Supervisors, the mayor, realize that it's not about, you know, even adequately funding us, because what is that? It's not even about making it fair. There's been so much damage to the Black and brown community that the Public Defender's Office should actually have more money than these other agencies, given the disparities that we have always highlighted here in San Francisco, and given the war on Black and brown people here in San Francisco. Again, it's worse than apartheid South Africa. And so I would hope that when these budget meetings and things are heard in front of the Board of Supervisors, the mayor, et cetera, the members from the community could go there and express their concern about what is going on here. You know, again, as we sit here and have this conversation, there are over 40% Black people. They messed up the whole thing with Latinx thing across the street, but over 40% Black people who are locked up in those jails. We need money for social workers. We need money for our pretrial release unit. We need money for education. We need money for programs, because no one else in the community, as Mano said, is doing this work on the front lines like this office with regard to immigration, with regard to LEOP, with regard to MAGIC, MAGIC, et cetera. So it's an honor to be able to have these public conversations here where the members of the community are part of this conversation. This is part of the public record. You know, and if we have the money, just look at this office's 100-year legacy, and that will mean more programs for people and more folks who look like me and Black and brown people will have a fighting chance to survive here in San Francisco, because it is a war on Black and brown people, and that has been it since I've been here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaku, and giving that call to action for those who are participating with us this afternoon. Are there any other public comments? Just looking for raised hand. Please raise your hand. Tracy, hi Tracy. Can someone unmute Tracy, please? Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, thank you, Public Defender and team for all the work that you do to serve our community. I just wanted to throw out there, again, Tracy with the District 10 office, that we are still working on closing juvenile hall. Want to thank you and your staff for the support, collaboration, all of that. And then also just to, as you plan for this budget, what do the new recommendations look like? It's 88 pages. I'm sure Carolyn knows them all by heart right now. But what does that look like? And what do you need to actually implement some of those recommendations that are in there? And so I just wanted to point out to that for everyone on the call. The closed juvenile hall work group has come up with a lot of recommendations for a lot of this justice reform work. And so we look forward to working with you in this budget season. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Mano, did you want to speak too?
No, I just wanted to thank Tracy for all of her work in the community over the years, and express deep appreciation for all of the collaboration we've done and will continue to do.
Thank you, Tracy. Next, we have somebody who's on an iPhone. Can't see the name, but if you can be unmuted.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yolanda Gutierrez. I'm with the Bayview YMCA here in Alice Griffith, Double Rock. First, I want to just give a huge shout out to the Public Defender's Office, specifically to Lona Kwan. Back in October, we had a job fair over at the Bayview Hub. We collaborated with Latino Task Force, and I coordinated to have Lona there and her team. Well, we signed up, I don't know exact numbers, but I know that the conversation I had with Lona, she said, Yolanda, we had such a huge turnout, thank you. So the goal is to actually have her, bring her here to Alice Griffith, bring her in our communities where folks don't know how to really navigate the system sometimes. Internet, computers, they're just a bunch of factors and a bunch of barriers that get in the way. So how I've been successful with my clients, I do a lot of hand-holding. And that's my motto. And I feel that I'm very successful when it comes to that, just hand-holding and making sure that our residents here in Alice Griffith get the services that are needed. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the Clean Slate unit there at the Public Defender's Office. Thank you.
Thank you. The Bayview Y has been a longstanding partner of MAGIC in the Public Defender's Office, so appreciate that. Mano, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Yolanda, for those comments. And, we were able to double our Clean Slate capacity this past year by reaching out to foundations, because we realized how crucial that work is for our communities. But that's something we'd really like to stabilize as a permanent part of our city budget while we continue to expand it, because there's no amount. I mean, we could have, 40 people in our Clean Slate unit. The amount of work is endless. And we just want to do it as well and effectively and efficiently as possible to have the maximum impact on our communities.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking to see if we have any other. I think Kelly. Can someone unmute Kelly?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kelly, and my pronouns are they and them. And thank you, Public Defender Mano Raju, and your office. I work for TGIJP, and we're the Transgender Gender Variant Intersex Justice Project. And I have a question about, first of all, I wanted to know if it's possible to receive a recording of this meeting. I found it so informative, and I'd like to bring it back to our team. And the other question I have is, for those of us that are active voters and have that legal right, what can we do as constituents not sure if this was covered in the presentation, but so that public defenders' offices such as yours are more well funded. You know, what can we do as voters and constituents that can amplify the need?
Mano, did you want to?
Sure. Does any other member of my team want to jump in on that? Carolyn or how do you?
Sure, I'm happy to join in. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. And we're actually meeting with Janetta in a few weeks to talk more and about collaborating with TJJP this year. So really glad you're here. You know, I think partly what we're hoping to do is really just share with community all the things that we do and that we collaborate on together. And through the budget process, our hope is that you know, if we first go to the mayor to try and get a lot of this funded, if that doesn't work, we go to the Board of Supervisors, and we would of course love your support and others' support as we fight to get some of that funding, and we fight to some extent begin to equalize this massive disconnect between what public defenders are funded, which is literally 4% of the rest of the whole like criminal justice system. I couldn't believe it when I was even calculating that, like how can that be? But that's, you know, where it's gone in our society. And so you know, happy to be in touch with you about those advocacy efforts as it moves forward. And the next 4 months, we'll know more by June 1st, what's in the mayor's budget and what we might be going to City Hall to then fight for as well.
Thank you, Carolyn. And Kelly, you can directly share your email address with Carolyn in direct chat. You'll see her name show up, Carolyn Goosen. And to answer your initial question, the recording of this presentation will be posted on the Public Defender website. Okay.
Thank you, Kelly.
Any other questions or public comments? Okay, I'm just making sure we got everybody. I believe we have. So with that, we are going to bring public comment to a close. I want to, again, thank our special guest speakers, Joanna and Dr. Pinto, as well as you all as our Zoom attendees for joining us and engaging in this presentation, but also wonderful dialogue with our public defender. Also want to thank the team of public defender staff that helped put this budget presentation together. So that's our Chief Attorney, Matt Gonzalez, Angela A. Young, Hadi Razak, Carolyn Goosen, Tyler Vu, Valerie Ibera, and Larry Roberts. Lastly, want to mention, if you are interested in more updates from our office and our movements towards transformative defense, please sign up for our mailing list by contacting us via our website. So that's sfpublicdefender.org. Again, I'm going to say that again, and maybe we can put it in the chat as well. It's sfpublicdefender.org. We look forward to continuing to serve this beautiful city of San Francisco and lead justice fighters in transformative public defense. So again, thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.